From gaming trickshot videos to becoming a billion-dollar brand, the rise of Faze Clan was the dream of every content creator. However, the harder they rose to fame, the harder they fell. But unlike many others, Faze Clan became one of the few content groups who managed to reclaim their lost glory. This is a story of wild success, a wilder downfall, and the eventual rise to fame once again. It all started in 2010 when three teenage gamers, Eric Rivera, Jeff Emmon, and Ben Christensen, hopped on the YouTube trend. The platform was still relatively new back then, but it was quickly growing. Millions of people were using it for music, news, and even their daily dose of entertainment. This trio chose to dominate the entertainment part of YouTube with their gaming content. In the very beginning, they started uploading trickshot videos of Call of Duty, and these weren't just some random gameplay videos. In fact, each video featured amazing edits, insane sniper shots, catchy music, and a raw, rebellious feel. For them, the matches weren't about winning, it was all about their unique style of playing. To their surprise, their fans, although very few back then, also loved this style of content. The trick shots were nearly impossible, and within no time, other creators started to copy them, or at least tried to, and that is when the Faze Clan's rise to fame began. Within a year, their subscriber count went from 50,000 to 500,000. They knew that the channel was working and that they needed a leader. Thomas Oliveira, who we know as Faze Temper, became part of the group and also assumed a leadership role. In the beginning, this seemed a bit confusing because he wasn't part of the group that started this channel. However, for the Faze Clan brand, which was still in the works, Temper's leadership role was monumental. He brought a different vision, and with that, he evolved Faze from a gaming channel into a huge brand. Within the next few years, Faze Apex, Faze Banks, and other key members joined the group, and there was no stopping them. Just a few years after starting, Faze became a cultural force. They had an impact on gamers, teenagers, emerging YouTubers, and virtually every content creator. This was also a pivotal moment for the entire group because now their content wasn't just about gaming, it was about everything they did. Vlogs, lifestyle videos, pranks, vacations, and everything else they did was recorded and shared with their fans. It was a huge shift at first, but eventually their fanbase grew to love everything they created. Their following kept growing exponentially, and in just a few years, the Faze Clan members became celebrities in their own right. Collaboration with pop culture figures, musicians, rappers, and influencers became the norm for them. Fast forward to 2016, the clan was expanding rapidly with all the members becoming more successful and more members being added to the team, and collaboration was through the roof. You see, Faze Clan wasn't new to collaborative content. In fact, they were pioneers of it. They had created the first big content house in 2014, which would inspire many other content groups to create their own content houses. And the success from this New York house is what would cause them to relocate to California in 2016 because there was just so much more potential in the West Coast, and this shift would mark some of the peak years for the clan. And a year later was the moment when the globally popular Cloud House came into being. They shared this massive Hollywood Hills mansion with many Faze members and other content creators, and it literally became a hub for massive Faze events, influencer parties, and content creation, with a notable example being Mr. Beast, who filmed a video there involving some of the Faze members and other big creators. For 4 years, this was the main Faze house, and it would be the most notable house next to their first one. It was arguably the peak of their global popularity, and they managed to grow even more in this house. And then in February of 2020, the group decided to make the biggest transition of all time. They moved to an insane 36,000 square foot mansion in Burbank, California. This mansion was a fortress with every amenity a content creator or influencer could dream of, and it housed many Faze members along with various other content creators. But unfortunately, moving to this house brought a ton of bad luck, controversies, and losses to Faze Clan. Despite things seeming bright on the outside, this house signifies some of the darkest periods the clan went through. From early 2020, Faze Clan started to break apart. Internal controversies, issues with other members, and just overall disagreements took over the group. For the entire year, they tried to make as much content as possible, but it just didn't hit like it used to. People started to speculate if the end of Faze Clan was near, but fans argued that the group was far too loyal and legendary to just break apart. This reasoning was understandable because there weren't huge controversies within the group, so making up with each other was a possibility. But what the fans didn't know was that in 2021, the real downfall of Faze Clan would begin. In May of 2021, Faze announced a SPAC merger and decided to go public. They valued themselves at a staggering $1 billion and went public on Nasdaq soon afterward. This was nothing short of a historic moment. Faze was the first content group to be valued at $1 billion, and their stock price was going through the roof. At the face of it, everything seemed calm and managed. However, behind the scenes, the entire Faze Clan brand was going through some extremely rough times. The issue wasn't going public, it was actually their mismanagement of expenses and loss of identity. Between 2019 and 2021, the group signed a ton of fancy brand partnerships, and they seemed to be in their peak, but then everything fell down. In 2021, their reported operating expenses were north of $37 million, and in just a year, that increased to nearly $60 million. On the other hand, their income dropped because of failed deals, low fan engagement, and other partnership deals. One of the most damaging partnerships was with the e-commerce company Network. Faze Clan partnered with them for their merchandise sales, and soon afterward, it was described as one of the crappiest deals in the world. You see, Faze Clan's merch brought in $5.9 million in revenue in 2021. However, after the Network deal, this revenue dropped just $3.5 million. They were giving a huge chunk of the revenue to Network as part of their agreement, and because of that, they had considerably less money to play around with. Yet their wasteful spending didn't stop. Again, in 2021, they partnered with rapper Lil Yachty for a video shoot in Vegas. The shoot date was set for June 1st, but Lil Yachty's executive team moved the shoot to an earlier date. As a result, Faze had to pay double the fee it paid Yachty to participate in the shoot. There were tons of other examples of misspending in these years, but the final nail in the coffin came in 2022. The executive directors of the Faze Clan made a bold move of making rapper Snoop Dogg part of their board of directors. For them, this was a strategic move that would benefit both parties. However, it only benefited Snoop. According to some reports, Snoop Dogg received a good chunk of Faze stock because the organization thought that Snoop would participate in their brand deals, but that never happened. He simply wasn't interested in any of the deals, mainly because there just wasn't enough money for him. Just a year after being a board member, Snoop Dogg decided to step down, and that was it for them. Their stock price collapsed, trading at barely 50 cents a pop, and they would end up getting delisted, which was extremely embarrassing and showed just how bad things were within the organization. They went from virtually being part of $1 billion company to the valuation of a small business. Of course, this hit them hard, and that brewed an internal civil war. Founding members like Banks, Apex, and Temper became extremely vocal against the corporate leadership's decisions and how they abandoned Faze's soul. Frustrations grew uncontrollably, promises were broken, and within no time, it felt like Faze Clan had come to a complete end. What had started in bedrooms with trick shots became something so impressive that the meetings were held in boardrooms and mansions. Sadly, in the midst of this massive transition, it felt like Faze forgot who they were. Fans were left betrayed because an organization and group that spoke to them had turned into just another greedy corporate business. For an entire year, the tensions kept growing internally. Not a single member had any clue what move to make. Their overall structure as a group was damaged to the point where any move felt like the wrong one. But they had to do something. Faze Clan was too big a brand to just abandon and move on from it. So finally, in March of 2024, Banks, Temper, and Apex came together. It was time to rebuild what they had lost with their own hands. It was going to be a challenge, but what other choice did they have? That is why they came out with one simple message: Faze would either return to its roots or it would die forever. The first thing they did was get a new content house. They were kicked out of the previous mansion in Burbank because of some crazy pranks which led to property damage, but this was all behind them. So they got together to lease a new content house in LA, brought in new members to the clan, and brought the glory days of Faze back to life. Their challenge videos, pranks, and everything else were revived. and it felt like Faze Clan was just about to come back. Fans were overwhelmed, and their support was even greater than before. Millions of people flooded the Twitter post with comments showing their excitement for this comeback. The new members made the new content even more engaging. The Faze Clan now shifted its focus away from traditional gaming videos to Twitch streams and more IRL content, as that is what was popular. Blackboy Max got massive appreciation for his music and how he integrated this talent into the new content, and the live music sessions and artist collaborations were loved by the Faze fans. And just like him, Jason's dynamic content and amazing Twitch streams also blew up, gaining him 100,000 subscribers on the platform, which was extremely impressive. And all the other content creators in the group were also doing very well, and Faze was really starting to blow up again, as a lot of the members were top streamers on the platform, and they were collectively getting tens of thousands of live viewers, and they all had their own personal channels which were also doing very well, and Faze was finally becoming relevant again. There were no gimmicky partnerships, no celebrity drama, no nothing, just pure content and community-driven projects. The comeback was so huge that in just 6 months, they secured $20 million in private funding from different investors. The only difference was that instead of big-pocketed Wall Street investors, they took on real people who understood the Faze Clan brand and its cultural value. By the end of 2024, they had a 300% increment in merch sales. The Twitch streams and YouTube views doubled compared to the previous couple of years. And most importantly, the whole group was back, although with a few missing members. Today, Faze Clan is revived, and it stands tall not just as a group of content creators, but as a symbol of resilience. They rose to fame, fell down hard, but refused to give up. Their new story is still being written, and it seems that every single fan is here for it once again.